very special. I don't know what I want to do, but I want him to be special.
Yeah, that's gonna be
somehow. Yeah. Welcome again, guys, to the Royal Mogul Podcast, episode 7. We have Katlego Mabusela, an amazing friend. To describe him, he's just an all-around amazing human.
Oh, thank you.
Confidant, if I should call him that.
How
I've been read already. My tabas have been told to me already, and it's just like, shoot, is this about me or you today? What is going on? Welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, my friend. Where's the coffee in?
It's delicious.
It's very delicious. Hey,
I make nice coffee, guys. Okay? I'll host a few of you one day.
Yeah, y'all want to get in on this coffee. This coffee is nice.
So you can try my coffee.
But no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy and healthy, grateful to be alive, about to be married. Kishapu. Like,
I guess Kalohan, but okay.
We
soldier on. I want to say on this platform that I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Your media, you have, guys, this man has worked. Okay, I met you in 2016.
When was the Bible written?
I met you in 2016. You were working for a particular radio station. I'm not promoting people here, but anyway, you're working for a particular radio station, and you gave me an opportunity in that time to be featured on your show every Saturday, and I'm so appreciative of that because you were one of the few people who saw talent and skill in me, and you kind of fit into it, And at the same time, at the time I was very fearful of doing that type of stuff, but I knew I love that.
Yeah.
I love being on radio. I love talking. I love sharing. Just talking, man. Ke rata ho bua. All I need is one mic. So I am super appreciative of that opportunity you gave me, even though it took me this long to get here.
Yeah.
And you are, should I say the only person? You're the one person I repeatedly had conversations with about starting a podcast.
Yeah.
And we said it for 3 years. And you kept saying that, my friend, let's go, I'm ready. Turn on the camera, let's start now. And every time I'm supposed to be like, no, not yet.
I wonder why that was though.
I really don't. It's that thing of standing in your own way and being fearful of your own potential, your own growth, and you're still busy comparing with other people. Okay, that one is more worthy than I am. So when you get to a place of enoughness, which we'll get into that enough word, when you get to a place of enoughness or almost being enough, that's when you realize, okay, no, I can actually do this. Let me just start. I don't need. Also, I like to perfect things. I always wanna. Okay, I need to get this first, then that. I wouldn't have started if I, because let me get a mic first. Let me get this. And I wanted it to be perfect.
I used to have the same disease, and it is a disease because it's toxic in a lot of ways because it keeps you from moments of greatness, like because we're sharp. I mean. Even with your media, and thank you, my friend, very kind words. I really appreciate them. I obviously wanted, like with everybody, you want everything to have fallen into place, and I think your media story.
I'm a long way.
Hey,
I'm a long way. I can operate clear. This man has worked, guys. Worked and sacrificed it.
And I don't know if I can say this on your platform, but fucked up. I messed up. I've messed up on that journey. Because I had to make the pause so that I can fix things, you know what I mean? And I think the one thing that really has been resonant in my life for the last year in particular is this concept, incremental improvement. And it's an idea that a lot of guys in the tech, Silicon Valley use, which is that you beta test everything. And as I said that, I was like, wow, imagine if we did that with relationships. Woo!
Don't start.
You don't go into it perfect. You don't start with it perfect. You build it to perfect. And perfection is in the work you do of refining. I mean, we started that. The first episode of your media's stuff was actually a KG Live thing that we did in somebody's house who actually wasn't even their house. and the camera.
I remember.
I was
there.
You guys came.
Yes, I remember. That was so nice.
Right, and again, testament to our relationship that you always show up for me, and I appreciate you.
7 a.m, baby.
Yeah,
hungry and all. Cold.
At least there was a view. That's all we could offer. A view.
Yes. It indeed was nice.
And from there on in, like before, I would have never started because I would have been too embarrassed. I'm KG. I've been on
such and such
national platforms or whatever, and I'm supposed to come out with a freshly polished thing. And I think when I accepted who I was, right, as in genuinely accepted myself, because even in the course of our relationship, I have always struggled with accepting myself. But when I accepted myself, I was proud of myself that I was even starting. And so it wasn't about it being complete. It was the fact that I was just starting.
Yeah.
And trusting that I'm enough. Just be enough. But we'll talk about it.
And doing it for you and not to please the next person.
Obviously have a strategy in place, have a plan in place.
Yes.
And work the plan. But like start with what you have.
That is so true. I think the other struggle is that partly for me it's you, and I'm unlearning it right now, where you create something before you.
I have to call. I'm stopping. I'm interrupting this podcast. For an hour, I've been trying to tell this person that this you that she speaks about, I don't know the man. God, okay, so we shall redo this. So I'm sorry. No, but that's an important thing. You have to own your story.
And you don't. You're aware of it. Okay. I'm aware of it. That I speak about myself in like third party or whatever. And I don't. Where does that come from? I need to actually figure it out.
I can give you the short pseudo-psychology version of it.
Okay.
Which is that it's when you distance ourselves from a subject matter, and that's why you speak about it as you, right?
And not I.
And oftentimes we'll do it because when we make it I, the emotion might be too great, whether positive or negative, but it might be the emotion that's attached to whatever we're discussing. We don't feel we're capacitated to handle it. And so it's easier to speak in third party because it removes it. And so what you do is you move it from the heart into the head. You intellectualize it. It's like, okay, we'll observe it. You know what I mean?
And I say this man has been reading me. He's been, like, this is not even, I'm not here, it's like I'm not even interviewing him. I'm not, come on.
Okay, Karina.
Well, okay, I'm changing, and please keep calling me out though. So I had to realize that in me creating something, I don't have to share it with you first for your approval. My decision and my approval is enough, you know, because for the longest time, you're just like, okay, I did this thing and let me just show KG to find out is it good enough, you know? Why can't you trust your own instinct? Why can't you trust why can't I? Hey guys, this is rough. There's a lot of unlearning here to be done, man. Why can't I trust my creations, the things I chose? Because there's a reason why I gravitated to that.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm waiting for a third person or somebody else to approve that, which that is also something very big to
You know what I also think, and I'm sorry to derail the conversation a little bit.
We're going to derail a lot here because there's so much to talk about.
Okay, so we've cleared that.
We literally talk about everything, guys. There's no particular title for this one.
But I think one of the things that our generation has become addicted to as well is in the diagnosis and not the healing, right? So too often we will, like this conversation we're having right now, is we'll go through a journey of identifying the issue, but we won't get as invested in solving it, right? Because when you think about it,
then you get stuck on the issue.
Yeah, you get stuck, and then you build your identity on the issue, which is, and I can see how it could be seductive, because when you build your identity on that issue, especially if you've shared the fact that you have this process you're going through and you're working on certain things, there's a certain level of affection and attention that you receive in that moment of vulnerability, because people are curious, oh, how's that going? So it's very easy to be seduced into that being your identity, and then you become a permanent patient and you're never healed.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? I know, that was even I was like, God, KG.
I was not ready for that.
But it's very seductive. It's very dangerous. It's so easy to fall into.
That just hits so hard. It's just, that's some realization there that I don't think a lot of us are aware of that. And so for me, what I've been trying to figure out in this healing process or unlearning this very, very difficult season that I'm in is, how do you graduate to the next level? How do you know that you've let go and you've overcome this certain situation? How do you know that you're healed and not fully healed, but you've graduated from this particular pain and you've let it go, you're okay, and you can move on to something else? In the sense that what you're saying now, when a person asks you, how are you? And I realize a lot of us do it lately. We just sit, try to figure out exactly how you are, and then say, actually, I'm good, or I'm not. So in those moments, it's easy for those feelings to resurface.
Sure.
So how do you actually know that, okay, I've dealt with this, I've overcome it, I'm graduating to the next level?
I guess we're all figuring it out, eh? And I think maybe let's not put ourselves under that pressure, but as long as we're doing the work, I think my hypothesis would be that you see it in action, like because what we do is we repeat patterns, right? And more often than not, our triggers for us to go down this investigative journey about who we are and is because we see ourselves repeating certain patterns, whether those are patterns in relationships, patterns with money, patterns in whatever, right? So we identify that and we realize that there's something wrong or toxic with this pattern. And then some who care then say, what is causing the pattern? And they go down this journey of investigation. And hopefully they get to a place where they're like, oh, it could be any number of these three things. But that's not where the journey ends. And that's what I was saying, that we then have to go and dig deeper into that. If that digging happens, if that unearthing happens, that weed will never take root again, hopefully. And so where will we see it? We'll see it in the patterns. The patterns will
the patterns will break,
The patterns will break, right? And so that same level of awareness needs to exist post the healing, to say, are the patterns? And then there'll be triggers. Sometimes you have done everything to de-weed the environment, and then somebody comes and drops whatever, and
you're back.
And it's no fault of yours. But because you're aware of the patterns, and now more so you're empowered with the knowledge of how to break the pattern, the second time around should be easier. If anything, you should.
And you can manage those triggers better as well.
You can manage those triggers better as well. In fact, you know the triggers. So more than ever, you're probably likely not to put yourself in environments where those triggers would exist. Yeah. Because then at that point, you're addicted to the pain if you keep putting yourself back in it, And sometimes you do, actually, when you think about it.
I can't stand this man.
Now I'm busy. Coffee.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking back to, and I need to really assess what I'm about to say right now.
Name and shame, girl.
Hey, I'm thinking back to my own patterns, and we briefly spoke about a few now. And how, so one toxic trait I'm fully aware of myself, about me, is I self-sabotage. And how I explain that is, it's easier to stop something from happening to you before it actually does. So, it's easier to end a relationship before it can get to a point of hurting you. But in the process of doing that, you're actually hurting yourself because you're doing it out of defense, right?
So disarming the gun kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shoot
so it's
the
like
first
before it hits you. And that has been in my awareness. It's a horrible pattern. And what I keep doing is building up the pain, building up the hurt, building up the anger. And I'm aware of it. I talk about it, but am I actually healing it? Or do I just, it's easy, it's comfortable. You're familiar with it. So it's easy to go back and just be like, this one didn't work out. It's fine. Let's leave it. And you're like, I was aware of it. I prepared myself for this pain. Why? When I could have just let it go.
Yeah.
And, break the pattern. Like, it's so easy for us to get comfortable in our pain instead of actually doing the work to heal and become better people.
I think the pain becomes addictive, number one.
That's sad.
The identifying as a person on a healing journey becomes something that we also kind of slightly get addicted to. So you start to identify yourself as a person who's working on themselves. And so, like I said, if you're the person who's working on themselves and you're getting attention for, or not attention, but you get what I'm saying.
You're being seen.
Yeah, you're being seen for that.
Yes.
And also sometimes you're being seen by yourself. So you have now gained a degree of respect for yourself because you have done some introspection and become enlightened. And so because you feel good about yourself in that moment, it's difficult to walk away from that identity because it's the first time you felt good about yourself. So you're stuck almost in this perpetual loop. And at some level we also have to remember as that we're primal beings, right? So to overly simplify it, at our most primal self, we're either moving away from pain or running towards pleasure, right? And at different times, certain things are pain. Sometimes those things are pleasure. What the world might perceive as pain might be a pleasure, And a simple version of it would be exactly what we're talking about. When a person who's addicted to pain or suffering is expressive about it, to the world, you're seeing an expression of pain, right? And because the world sees that and then gives that person attention, whether that person's getting attention from 1 or 1,000,000 or even themselves, right? They're actually gaining pleasure. So in that moment, what might be perceived as pain by the outside world is actually pleasure to them. So they're using the wrong vehicle to meet one of their most primal needs, which is love and affection and etc. etc. So now it's conflict. You can't move away from it because actually humanite at a level that you can't even understand. You can't comprehend home. It's beyond that. It's like you don't even know why you're here. Why am I still here? Rationally, this is wrong.
But I'm here.
Yeah.
Because it's comfortable.
Right? And also there's that gift in silence. Because we don't give ourselves the gift of silence. And it's such a cliche. But the gift of silence, what it does is it declutters our world. It silences, I suppose, very much so, all the other things that could have been happening. It allows for us to isolate and focus on one issue. And if we do the work, we can go deeper, so beyond surface level, and go to the real stuff underneath. And then you can see, actually, the pattern that's playing out here is, and I was thinking,
sure.
So I'm like, because I got a problem. I don't want to be alone. So I'll stay in pain because in pain I have company. I have attention, which I think is affection.
I hate you.
Why are we even on this earth?
I hate you. I can't. Yo, I'm even getting a headache. Wow. I don't even think I need my cue cards today. Wow.
Oh, I'm getting questions from those cue cards. Those are branded cue cards. I want to be on that branded situation. Hell no. Shit.
Oh my God. So, sure, I'm trying to digest this, right? Because in a lot of what you just said, I resonate with it. In that pain, yes, I feed into pain. And that could also probably show up in choosing the wrong relationship or you're always going for tattoos or whatever, and like it's have a basic needle, but this I'll sit through, So there's a level of addiction to pain and also venting to certain people, because in that you're looking for someone to validate your feelings. You're looking for someone to say, you're actually okay, you're right to feel like that, continue. And when the truth comes out, you don't want to hear it. There's a select few people that I literally run to that you can say, like you said, the attention you're given. I can run to you. I can run to another friend of mine. There's a select few, and it's always guys, mind you. I have a lot of male friends. I grew up around guys. It's not easier to connect with them, but they give you the real deal. Yes, as women, we talk, but sometimes we soften things up. You're not direct. You don't say it as it is. And when you do, it's sekare over snacks. So there's a select few people that I run to, and I'm always given the hard truth, like you did now, like you did earlier, and I'm just like, oh, I was aware of that, but I didn't want to be aware.
Yeah.
I was okay being here. Why are you calling me up? I was okay being in the space.
Didn't you say you're my friend?
Didn't say my friend. Why are you calling me out for this? But we need it. in order to call ourselves out for the nonsense that we're doing. Because, I mean, for one, I know half the things I'm doing, I shouldn't be going wherever I'm going to fulfill, a void. I should just sit here and find ways of dealing with it. But it's a lot harder, isn't it? And we don't want to do that.
As you were saying, particularly the part about going wherever, right? I thought to myself, these things have to be. The unfortunate bit about it is they erode our sense of self, especially if you are aware of it. When you're ignorant, they say ignorant is bliss. I guess they in many ways, I get what they mean by that. This whole ignorance is bliss thing, right? Because when you let yourself down and you're conscious of the fact that you are actively choosing to not honor yourself, and that sounds so hard in the air, but what I mean by that is you're doing something that goes against your sense of values, right? And you might at that point feel like, I've got no other choice, or whatever, right? But again, remember, pain, pleasure. So you're either running from some pain or going towards some pleasure in that moment of decision. And I'll give you an example of myself. There are certain relationships that I hold and I still keep now, right? That first act of the fact that those relationships still exist is a problem, because those relationships, we don't have a values match. But I'm getting something from those relationships. And sometimes I'll find myself in environments where I am not fully present because I'm observing myself in that and I'm disappointed in myself, right? The more I do that, the more comfortable I become with it. The more comfortable I become with it, the more part of my identity becomes, right? And now I've gone from observing myself as a person who's doing a thing they don't like, from a person who's becoming that person. And then you can imagine, because I already have a thought about it, I'm like, I don't look at myself the same way. I don't hold myself in the same regard. I'm struggling to explain it, but quite short. Okay, disrespect, and we do that so often, and maybe a part of it is discipline. I heard somewhere there's something to be said for DNA, that we are showing up as beings we didn't show up in 2021, in the times we showed up in, which is the late 80s, right? And we're living this experience, yet in our blood runs the DNA of those that came before us. And so a lot of what we as supposedly enlightened, because everybody I'm sure in that generation is enlightened, we're trying to rewrite millennia of programming and so forth. That scares me, because it takes away my responsibility to remake myself, or not even remake, to make myself. Because I'm a strong believer in, yes, we're born a certain way, we're conditioned a certain way, but at some point when we become an adult, the responsibility to create yourself begins then. So for me, adulthood is when you actively take responsibility for who you are, and you say, this is who I want to be. And once you say that this stuff is now in the blood, I'm like, ooh, that makes that job a lot harder. But maybe there's merit to it. And maybe we should give ourselves some grace, but never too much grace, because then we won't do anything.
Then you just be chilling and waiting for what?
Exactly.
And that's the thing, we keep, one of the episodes I had Didi when we spoke about friendship, and she's like, we need to give ourselves enough grace, be kinder to ourselves and whatnot. But sometimes it could be too much grace, where you just literally sit and say, something is going to happen, I'm being patient with myself. But in that process, you're not doing anything. So what are you exactly learning and growing from?
Give yourself grace, don't disgrace yourself.
Ooh. Hello, Pastor. That day.
Yeah, I said it.
Wow, that is okay. Let me regulate here, so I can go back to these questions, because we went in too deep too quickly.
Let's go to the beginning.
Too deep too quickly. Okay, Mabusela. Let me start from first. Legal. I'm trying to lighten this thing up, because wow. And here's the thing, this is literally our conversations all the time.
Yes.
It's not
people are like, yes, your conversations are depressing.
No, they're not. For one, so I think I would like to think most of my friends know this. I can't do small talk. It's young balala. It's just Hey, how's your favorite color? What's your favorite color? What do you think about the weather outside? I like to go right into the things, even if it's the first time I meet you, you know. And I think the first time we met, that's how it was, you know.
How we click.
Some people may feel like, this is too much, it's too deep. No, I want to
as a target market.
Yes, not a target audience. I want to hear what you're thinking, what you're feeling, you know, what you're going through, what are your goals, all those type of things. So that also when you engage with people, you're not just engaging with a person for the sake of service level only, because we can do that with just anyone. But I want substance. I want to move away from whatever engagement I have with someone, knowing that, sure, that is a beautiful person.
Have you found that people are more, if you'd say 5 years ago versus now, if there's even a difference, people are more, there are more people yearning for that same thing? And I asked this on the back of, I used to struggle with being in social settings because they were all, for the most part, superficial. And because maybe something in my upbringing did not teach me how to do this, I didn't know how to be in small talk. I didn't know how to be in that level. In fact, I had to learn how to fake it.
Small talk.
Yeah, from radio. Radio was one of the skills I learned from it, is how to seem to be in a conversation but not be in a conversation. Because all you do is you ask the right questions and you keep the person talking, right? But I had to learn that skill, because otherwise I was always in social settings feeling unfulfilled, feeling empty, because I want to engage, I want to connect, but everybody else is surface leveling, and I'm like, something's wrong with me.
Yeah. Is there a difference between 5 years and now? Do you know? I think we're all on the surface level thing, and when you look at social media and whatnot, we're all trying to present ourselves as not deep. Yeah, I'm just not deep. Until you actually sit with an individual or pay attention to something that they've done, and you're like, oh, so this is really you? So why aren't you putting that out? Because I think for the most part, I don't know now if people are more free to be vulnerable and open and deep and whatever, but I think we try for people not to see that, because we don't want, how can I put it? You don't want people knowing the real you, because you feel like that part would be lost, or it's a valuable part of you that will be lost, or it's a case of then type of vibe. It's the same with
like
Bahubonezi, you know. Now who am I without this secret of that I've shared with certain people? And I won't lie, part of me felt like that before I started this podcast, and I was like, am I really going to be open to the world like that? You know, why am I doing that? You know, and when you look at it, everyone is doing it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's who you are. These are the conversations you have every day. The only difference is that it's on camera now, you're putting it online, you know? And the benefit of it is that there's someone like you out there who can gain something from it, who can allow themselves to be as open and vulnerable about it. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
No, I mean, I was just curious,
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna out of 10.
Because I feel like, you know, half the time when I have conversations with you, actually with anyone, this is why structure, for one. I always go round and round about. Yes, infinity sign before I get to the point. But anyway, I hope I did answer you.
No, because go on.
Yeah. Okay, let me go back to basics. The light.
Yes, we have cue cards.
We have cue cards. Let's go back to the light questions. Okay, what is your favorite meal? Oh, favorite time to... This is horror. What... This is sad. This is sad. Do you prefer breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
School fees is in Tiang. Wait, is a part to school fees. But you should call
up this is bad. Question 1.
Who? And that time was okay. We've gone deep.
See,
to the bottom
level.
All right, let's go back. What is my favorite meal of the day?
Yes.
Breakfast, lunch, or supper?
Yes, breakfast, lunch, or supper.
Ooh, I've never thought about that, actually. So maybe it's not such a superficial question after all.
Thank you.
There are conditions.
Okay.
It depends on where I am and who I'm with. If I'm with myself, more often than not. So if I'm with myself and I'm away, breakfast will be my favorite meal because it allows for me to just taste. One of the things I learned a couple of years ago when I realized that I was living a life as a reaction to my partner, my fiance, as opposed to me, was that I realized that I even forgot what food tastes like. So I was a yes man, and I was doing it not because of anything she had done, but because I'd given up my right to exist to myself. So breakfast became when I would take moments on my own or go away. I want to taste the food so I can really feel it. And know if I actually like it or I'm eating it because it's the thing that I'm supposed to be eating at this time of day or in this place that I'm at, So it's an opportunity for me to be present. So in that case, then that breakfast would be my favorite meal in that moment. If I'm with people, I find more often than not that's like supper would be because dinner usually has like some wine, some gin, some and it's sociable and we're chatting.
Great conversation.
So that's my stuff. Lunch. Actually, I need to put some respect on lunch's name, because I don't respect lunch. Sometimes I take lunch and my laptop is still open, and even at the office, the screen's open, the laptop's open. You just But and there's a Chinese saying, or is it Japanese, that when eating, eat; when sleeping, sleep. I know it sounds so simple, but like that whole idea of presence. But with lunch, can I be so.
And you're not even in the moment. You don't enjoy anything. It's just going. Yeah, just filling for the sake of filling.
And how often do we do that? Every day. That's why even with that Monday, not the Monday, the breakfast thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I've been going through at that time 3 years of my life just doing, not ever actually pausing to say
why. And are you enjoying what
you're doing? Am I enjoying it until pleasure and pain, right? Until I got to a point where doing that was too painful, and so I needed to move away from the pain.
Is there an in-between between pleasure and pain?
Yeah, I would assume there would be, because there's a good
there needs to be a balance, because it can't, because even when you run to pleasure, to fulfill something. It's not it's still a running to something. Does that make sense?
I hear you. But I'm sensing that you're making it, or you're looking at it as a bad thing. Pleasure is a beautiful thing. Pain can also be a beautiful thing. It depends on the context.
If it fulfills in the right way.
Yes.
If the pleasure fulfills in the right way and feeds
if it serves you,
if it serves you, yes.
Yeah.
So I think because I'm not looking at it as it's fully serving me, the pleasure or the pain, I'm just trying to find, it feels like either one of them would yet to appease the next person or whatever. Right. So that's why I'm asking, is there a balance in between?
I think that's what we're all trying to find. I don't know if it's a balance, as in it's a balance right in between pleasure and pain, or it's the right combination of moments of pleasure and moments of pain. I don't know. Because one of the thoughts I was having was, even in sex, right? Not in the physical act of sex, but that when you think about that concept, that pleasure, what is seemingly superficially a pleasure, could be very painful if it's with the wrong person in the wrong time of your life, right?
Yeah.
And so the same way that the flip side would be true with the right person, it could be very pleasurable. What is seen as pain could be very pleasurable, and that's obviously at a superficial level of the whole conversation.
So you see, what I love about my questions is that it's a basic question, but it just
I know.
It down. It's so
I have never thought about what meal of the day I enjoy.
It's so amazing. Okay. Second question: what's the best joke you've ever heard?
Oh wow!
I know.
God, what pressure is this?
This is the superficial stuff I get when you go to it. It's like, nice bag, and then you try and make silly jokes in between, and then it's like, oh, okay.
You know what? My favorite jokes are not punchline, not dish.
Yeah.
It's not, they're gonna learn today. That's funny. I laugh at that, but like, I love British humor.
Yeah.
And
really?
I'm crazy about British humor, as dry as it might seem to other people. For me, what makes British humor amazing is the wit. It's the I love wittiness.
Yes.
I love the ability to, like, in just conversation, I wear something, and then the response to it is like, what the hell?
Exactly, I hear you.
And sometimes I find, like with stand-up comedy in particular and jokes, like they're too now I have to laugh, and I'm like, I know. No. If I anticipated, I was listening to
I love that.
I was listening to an audiobook this week, actually, about what makes things go viral. And anyway, one of the teachings there was about humor and how to use humor and what makes humor work. And they said humor is very much like how magicians work. And people don't get that. It's the surprise element that makes humor. And so if the mind already knows where it's going to go and what the answer is going to be, then things aren't funny, right?
Yeah.
But when the mind gets like it basically
Caught
does
of God.
this,
Yeah.
you know, it gets tickled, and that's why you ultimately laugh.
Okay.
And for me, I love that. I love like wit. Like wit is.
I get it, and I get
so
why.
I guess I don't have a favorite.
You just have a wide range of them. Okay, interesting. What is the phone app you use the most?
Phone app. WhatsApp, Spotify, Audible. Google, obviously, I think. What you should be asking is what I'm Googling. Sorry, come again.
There he goes. Audible is what? Audiobooks?
Audible is audiobooks.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the best decisions I've ever made was to get an Audible account.
Oh, I think I should do it. You're paying?
Yeah, so there's obviously...
I'm paying too many accounts though. Damn, okay.
No, but it's subscription and it's $50. But I suppose if you get like $50, they start to add up.
But Audible is great. Something else the other day again. But anyway, yeah.
Audible, I 1,000% endorse Audible because of... So when I drive, right? I fell out of love with being a consumer of radio a couple of years ago. Right?
That's me.
And as much as I love the mic and I love the artistry of radio, the craft of radio, and that's because I'd switch on the radio and I heard nothing that
related to you.
If I wanted a playlist, I could create my own playlist on Spotify, right?
True.
So I was yearning for conversations that were enriching, and also like every then the news are depressing you, and you're like, oh my god, I'm on a cycle of depression.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting into audiobooks because I realized I don't read as much. You know, we have, especially guys who wear glasses, this thing that we're readers, and it makes you feel sophisticated. And I'm a reader. When you come to my house, I've got a stack of books. And I was like, I'm buying these books, but I'm not touching them anymore. I feel
like it's an aesthetic now with a lot of people. So now I'm like, oh my god, you've read all these books. No, see, they're balancing things there. There's no reading.
To the point where they're now making books that are purely aesthetic. So it's just a cover.
It's just a cover. Nothing else is like, oh my god.
That's genius, though, when you think about it. But anyway, long story short was that that's how I got into to audiobooks, because I realized next time, but then I had all this dead space during my driving. And I was like, and I used to have such corny things that I was like, what was it called? Traffic University or something.
Yeah.
I was like, I can use that time to learn. I could learn something in just
new.
A trip between an office and the next meeting, or even like I'm grooving music like anybody else.
Oh, yes.
Not knowing why I'm grooving during COVID. but yeah, that's why I then started downloading audiobooks. At the time, I won't lie, I was, when you used to download music for free.
Yeah,
I was using the same principle, because we were getting the bootleg versions, and then things like Audible came out, and I was like, I'll get on this thing. And it's amazing.
And actually, I should actually do that, because I drive in silence lately.
Not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. I actually love it, because sometimes it's like, I don't want to hear anything. And then maybe a particular song pops in my head, then I jam it. But I should probably do that, because then I could get in a lot of books. Because I really want to go back to reading, and I used to love reading. It's just this particular genre. But now I'm just like, few pages or chapter, then I'm just over it.
Like I fall asleep.
Right? My mother in high school used to do that. I'm like, I can't sleep. She's like, read a book. I take out your textbook, read it. You're going to sleep now. And like literally the first page, you're gone. I'm like, education.
I remember the first time it happened, I was so nervous. I was like, am I getting that dumb? That books are putting me to sleep. What is going on?
It's crazy. But I'm curious about the logic behind that. How a book puts you to sleep. It's quite interesting. Like, you just sit in bed, even on the couch, how dudes, and then you're reading, enjoying it, and then bah.
I actually wonder what it is. There's some, bet you know, somebody's done a research article on it.
Of course, we'll Google it.
Oh no, somebody's made an audiobook on it.
When you find it, tell me.
I'll send it. Shit.
Okay, if you could have any exotic animal as a pet, which would it be?
The Mike Tyson in me.
Exotic
animal as a pet.
Google.
I would probably go for... I'm not into reptiles. So, my clan name Kital, so
yes.
although my Ndebele side of the family, which technically is my
Ndebele? You're part Ndebele?
Kilitebele, technically.
From your dad or your mom's side?
From my dad's side.
Hectic, I didn't know that.
I don't share it a lot.
Yeah.
I relate more
Botswana, yeah.
Although because my parents were married and there was a traditional ceremony, in truth, and to my ancestors and all those, I acknowledge Kilitebele in the truth.
Hectic. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. I'm trying to figure out myself right now,
Yeah.
especially as I'm getting married, because it's part of me figuring out who I'm walking into that relationship as. Right? It was easy when I was on my own, but when you're entering into somebody, amalgamating lives, it's like,
Can and what are you introducing them to?
Right? And what am I introducing her to? Because I have to tell somebody, even if they're not in the living realm, somebody has to know. And who do I tell? Which door do I knock on? Hey, there's a whole other.
Something like we just had a brief conversation about that this morning with my sister. It was like, guys, the culture, spirituality, families are some other dynamics.
And family trees.
It's intense. Okay, anyway, let's not. You see, told you. Continue. I'm not starting this conversation.
Exotic animal. It would probably be a lion or something, but it's not. I guess it's not exotic. So maybe let's go for like a mountain lion. No, I'm lying. Hi, KGC's coming.
Yes.
It would be a husky. I have got such a love for those dogs. The only reason I wouldn't get one in this country is because those snow.
Yes, I was about to say okay.
Yeah,
okay,
I love them. Love them.
Are they friendly?
Very.
Is it? Okay.
Very much so. The only reason I wouldn't have them in South Africa is obviously it's too hot here. So it's actually technically abusive to the animal. Because it's conditioned for a different environment. I mean, hey, I'm a global citizen.
Go to Ireland.
I'll have one in my Irish house.
Yes.
All right?
Let's go.
Yeah, why not?
Guys, have friends that live everywhere so you can visit.
In fact, have houses everywhere.
Exactly. Okay, your questions are done.
Okay. Was that the warm-up?
I was trying to see. So here's the... So I did say to you, I was trying to figure out exactly what you and I will talk about, because we talk about everything, right? And I was having a conversation with my mom the other day, and she's like, no... Because she's a vlogger as well. Guys, my mom, like, genius woman. She literally pioneered this thing for me. Just I took too long to jump on. But anyway, she was just saying she was having a conversation with one of her nursing, what was it, her lecturer or teachers or bosses, I can't remember, from when she was in the nursing days. And she's like, these people are the ones we're supposed to cherish, give our flowers to, and, these are our Oprahs and Winnies. You don't have to identify. And in that moment, I'm like, actually, Katlego Mabusela is one of those people.
Actually, let me stay in the moment, but honestly,
in that moment, I was like, you're actually right, because we're constantly looking at the Steve Harveys and not identifying that we have our own Steve Harveys here, because you want to quantify validate or whatever by someone's or honor them based on what they have achieved.
Yeah.
So because they're not at Steve Harvey level, you feel like it's not yet time to honor you. But you've done so much. You've achieved so much. You sacrificed so much. You've given platforms and creative platforms for so many people that you are actually that person. You should be honored every day. You should be celebrated every day, because you continue to do that for everybody else.
Thank you.
That was one of the important things that I had to say, and I'm like,
Thank you.
And this goes back to how you kept telling us your journey to success, how you started, what you went through, having to lose everything and start over. How did you, especially in a time where we're dealing with mental health, there's a lot of suicide rate is high and everything. How do you keep yourself motivated in those spaces? How do you just get yourself out of a slump, or, okay, I'm losing everything, or this is changing, but I know I can get back and just, rebuild?
I think, and I've never said this anywhere, and maybe I'm acknowledging it for myself the first time now. Firstly, thank you. You got me all emo.
It's a pleasure.
But I appreciate it. Thank you. It's beyond the kindness, and I don't want to seem fake humble. It's like I felt seen in that moment. So thank you. with the motivation thing, I feel like motivation is like a muscle, right? So if it is constantly on, it will tire and it might even snap, right? If it's always engaged. And oftentimes, and myself as a motivational speaker in certain contexts, I am responsible for telling people we must always be on. I think I've come to a place now where I realize that as and when it's necessary, I need to be firstly careful with it and treat it well and condition it. So I need to feed it. I need to do whatever. Like any muscle, right? I need to be Jimmy some motivation. So the Jimmying part of it and the keeping it conditioned thing is a number of things. It's music. I listen to inspirational music, and that's a wide range of music. So there's inspirational music that is, let's go and grind, because the lyrics speaks about going and grinding, and that's my hip hop, and that's what I'm good. The world I come from, but I also come from the world of Westlife and so forth. And so I feed my soul with that, and I'll feed my soul with sometimes just noises while play Era. I freaked Leanne out the first time she heard me playing Era, because she was like, what the hell is that?
This?
I was like, hey, I'm listening to Leave Me Alone. And
I'm vibing here.
I'm vibing. It's my vibe. It's the state I'm in. It's the state I'm embracing. So that's the feeding it part. Whether it's, like I said, AKA all the way through to anybody, I'll feed it that way. But I also know that, again, we can't be motivated all the time. It's when I use that muscle that I've become better at. And so I think one of the things that has helped me come out of my moments of darkness, if you would, is the fact that I had now learned when to engage it. But I wasn't engaging an empty resource. It's a resource that I had been feeding. So when I would engage it, it responded because it had capacity.
And you prepared for that moment.
You know what I mean? So, and again, those audiobooks that we talk about, that's part of building up that capacity, that arsenal that you can pull out when you need to pull it out. And a part of it also is, and I say this knowing that I spent a large part of my life alone. And I say alone, that obviously we're all surrounded by people, right? But I was alone in the sense that I went to Katlego boarding school come 15, 16. So there's a whole story that comes with that. But in that environment, I didn't belong. I tried to find my way to belong. Ended up being the library. Like the library was my place of safety and so forth. Never really went back home. So as soon as I went to boarding school, home was never home again. It was a place I visited 4 times a year, And so that meant that my relationships with my most immediate family as well weren't as strong as they would have been if I was there.
If you're there,
Came out of that, went into the big bad world, and I'd started working already for like a clothing retailer back then, in part-time. And so when I came to Joburg, thought I was going to still have that job. It didn't work out. But anyway, came to Joburg. Again, I'm alone. I don't know anybody. It's a new city. Fast forward this story, and I've been alone for the longest time until about 7 years ago, where I started to build relationships with people like yourselves, with the friends I have now. There was a point I was making with this, which is that now in this season of my life, part of my motivation is the kind words that you would say, for example, that feeds me. It is knowing that I'm not the only one I'm carrying this for. Like in certain parts, there are people who are dependent on me, right? And so I do need to rise to the occasion. But also the opposite, which is that there are people around me who I can fall on. And I struggled with that for the longest time. I was like, when you leave an animal in the wild for too long, it doesn't know how to regulate
with other people.
Right. My regulation, so I'm getting better at it, and I'm learning to trust people at that level, and that's risky. It's one of the things that scare me the most, trusting at that.
Especially if you've been alone for so long and that's all you know. Having to literally trust somebody else with your entire life or whatever the case is, a bit hard.
And remember that in the being alone, I learned a lot of survival techniques that can be good and bad. And some of them are good, but they are bad in the wrong context. In the wrong context. And so I'm having to become aware of the fact that, I can create a facade. That gives you the impression that we have connection. But if I really want to have connection with you, I have to go beyond that facade and actually be in relation with you, and be vulnerable, and be all the things that scare me the most. Actually, it's scary.
That's a huge defense mechanism, though, isn't it? Like, we're just always on guard because you never know what to expect from the next person. You so rather be protected at all times. Oh, very interesting. So that essentially also answers my next question as to how you stay motivated and in your personal life so that you can show up professionally. So I'm assuming it's just all in the same,
It's the same thing.
Because when you're good personally, professionally, you'll be good as well. The biggest struggles you have overcome?
Myself.
Ooh.
Myself.
Interesting. Want to hear this?
Myself, and by that I mean the man or the boy I was raised to be had to become the man I am growing up to be. There's a I still need to remember where I got this phrase from, where it says, we all grow up, but not all of us are raised. And you actually see it when you meet adults that are kids.
Yeah.
They are in a body of a grown adult, but everything else is still child. And for me, there's a lot of that that I've been working on. And I think similarly to you, it's rewriting a lot of narratives that we took on unwittingly as Bahana.
Yeah.
And so they've informed a large part of who we become as adults. And when we become aware of those patterns, we try and
break them and unlearn,
And so that's why I've been my biggest hurdle. One of the things I used to do a lot was lie. Going back to the comment that I made now, right? About like some things can be bad. That skill was a skill, because it is a skill, a terrible skill as it is, was one that at certain times of my life helped me survive. But if I really want to thrive, sorry for the rhyme scheme, I wasn't deliberate, but if I want like abundant connection and real authentic connection, I cannot allow that to exist because it erodes trust. It builds unseen walls. It imprisons me because a lie imprisons. A lie will imprison you because now everything from that moment, you don't have to just remember the lie. Yeah. You have to build the world around that lie.
Yes.
Forever, unless you're going to come clean.
Yeah.
And that is a terrible place to be because you aren't really present.
You're caged. You're caged
by your own lies. So.
That is so interesting. I think that for me, one of the things I struggle with is lying. I rather tell you the truth, But I wanted to go back to this. Yes.
Would you remember if I interrupt you?
Okay. I hope I will.
Okay. You can say if you want.
I think I will. Let's continue. Yeah.
The reason and it's not to justify it, but it's just the patterns.
Yeah.
I've come to understand that if you take that line and you draw it all the way to the end of it, from my lying habits, it was because ultimately I did not want to lose affection, right? Because I yearned for love. And so in the times I would lie, I would either tell a lie about something to make myself look a certain way or to avoid looking a certain way, which at surface level people say it's people pleasing. So one of my personality traits that I've become aware of over the last 10 years is that I'm a people pleaser. It's not always healthy. Sometimes it makes other people feel good, which is great. But
how does it make you feel?
Right?
Yeah.
And in the long term, is it the best thing to do? So that's most of us, and I'm not saying most people will lie with the intention of holding on to what at surface level will seem like something superficial, but that the tail end of it is that they don't want to lose
the affection.
The affection. At the end of it, that's what they're trying not to lose.
We depend so much on others.
Oh.
We depend so much on the next person that even the I am enough thing starts feeling like, am I really enough?
Am I really? Or is it just nice?
Or is it just nice?
Good for the grams.
Am I really enough? Or, it's,
Should we be fighting it though? We're part of an ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, other animals or other beings fight this interconnectedness or they embrace it as a part of their natural being. It is, of course, I depend on others. And it's funny because we were having the similar conversation just before we went
started,
live.
Yeah.
And I was actually at that time saying, it's this thing of not needing others that we need to get to. Now I'm thinking to myself, Is it yes, and not needing others, but embracing the fact that you kind of do as well, because we're part of an ecosystem. We are human beings.
You can't do anything alone.
We literally,
yeah.
I mean, plants aren't mad at other plants that they need to be part of their ecosystem. So I'm wondering if we're working against our innate nature, should we not be learning how to better be interconnected as opposed to not
fighting? Interesting. I think in terms of needing each other, definitely we do, and the thing is probably what we need each other for, or being fully dependent in that you need to a point of feeling without them you can't achieve. You understand? So I think there just needs to be a good balance of what exactly do you need from the next person. Can you fulfill certain things on your own without them?
Yeah.
And is it a need of just support of delegating, etc., or whatnot? Is it just full on codependency?
Sure.
So I just feel like it depends on what it is. Whereas in other times it could be need to a level of a crutch.
Yes.
And that's unhealthy for both parties, and we become enablers of that in the need itself. So I think it just depends on the situation.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's grades, basically.
There's grades to this thing.
Levels to this thing.
Levels, yeah. So what I wanted to say, which I remember, is you're talking about how majority of us are just adults. We're kids in adult bodies. I was asking the girls the other day, is it weird? Who was I asking? I can't remember. I was asking someone the other day. Is it weird that, and maybe this is because high school is such a trigger for me, and primary, is it weird that when you see people you're in primary and high school with, you don't see them for who they are now, but you can only relate to that person. And you're not seeing a grown person who's independent and they're working, whatever. You're either seeing the person that tormented you in high school or the nerd that you were not attracted to, or what, like you just, in your mind, parts of you are stuck there. Is that a normal thing? Or does it, I don't know if it feels
I can tell you my experience, which is...
Yeah.
Yes. For me, it's normal in the sense that I go through the same thing.
Okay. I thought I'm crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy at all.
Because I won't lie, I saw a girl, and sorry to cut you, I saw a girl I was in high school with, and I'm like, oh, she's doing so great, she's thriving. In that moment, I think, what I do, I'm not saying we, I don't know who else relates to this or will relate to it. In that moment, I sit there and I'm like, shoo, but this person was so in high school. When did they get here and do, you understand? And then you start, it's no longer about them anymore, but you start to question yourself, belittle yourself, and think of how you were treated in high school, and are they potentially the same person? Could I engage with them now or not? Should I just, you there's just a lot of negativity that pops up, and you just feel insecure again, and you feel stuck in that moment because potentially of how that person or high school in itself made you feel.
I think human beings, we're autobiographical, right? So we look at the world through our lived experience. And what we negate is the fact that that very person, in the same amount of time and years that you guys have not seen each other, was having their lived experience. And we don't know what fed into that lived experience. And so maybe that when you do meet them, it's an opportunity to meet a new person. That person that
not the person you lost.
Yeah, and look, if they were a kak then, kakayomuntu back then, and they present as a kakayomuntu now, then
it's fine. You just let it go.
Exactly, right? But if you're meeting a new person, literally, and they've refined the parts of them that needed refining or healed, the ones that, oh, great, what an opportunity to have a relationship with a new person. So you say that you speak to a part of my life that I struggle with a lot because, like I said, I struggled to fit in high school. And so I had a very particular disposition or relationship with all the other guys go school. It was like lower ones. In many ways, it worked for me because it drove me to certain levels of success because I was like,
I'm pushing.
I'm validating myself. But you can see the unhealthiness in it, right?
Because you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
I wish I could have better relationships with some of the guys. I see them in my adult life now, and I have struggled to divorce myself of who they were then and and maybe the point of forgiveness for me for some of the actions, because some of them wasn't even their actions. It was my shittiness or my assumptions that they'd be a certain way because they're supposedly spoiled or come from a certain background or whatever. Is that and at that time they were living as who they were told to be. As adults, some of them might have become who they want people. To be. And maybe I should do exactly what I was saying to you, which is meet the new person. The new person. And if the new person is somebody who vibes with me, I vibe with them, great. If not, we know it ends there. But I feel like a part of me did rob myself of potentially really enriching relationships, whether they're emotional, financial. Not that I wasn't gonna hang. But professionally, network-wise, and so forth. Connection. But because boxes about and boxes esbana, not knowing how they did not choose to be the kids they were. They sure as hell choose the adults to be they are now. But it is what it is.
That is very traumatizing, isn't it? I thought, sometimes when you having these thoughts by yourself, you think, you think something is wrong, but then you realize, no, man, this era in my life created a huge trigger.
Yeah.
It created a huge...
High school is a hugely triggering time.
It's so triggering that half the time, the past few years, randomly, I don't know where, Facebook request, and I'd be mad. I'm like, why the hell you send me a Facebook request when you used to do this and this in high school? You didn't like me or whatever. But people are different, and for whatever reason, whether they're catching up with your life or whatnot, it doesn't matter. People grow up to be different human beings, and some could probably remain the same. I don't know. But one of the I hate high school. Yeah, high school. One of the most triggering things, and this probably contributed to how I carry myself towards relationships, or how I feel I have to overextend myself and overshare. There's a one time in class where I was lying down. I wore glasses, right? And my lenses are really thick. So I wore glasses in high school. This was grade 10. And guys are flirtatious, they touchy jang to girls in high school and everything else, always hinting, okay, but a whole jola or whatnot. These group of guys, and I remember all three of them. I know exactly who they are. They're standing there, and one of them says, "Oh, this girl is beautiful. If only she didn't wear glasses. Like, she has a great body, maradi breli." And you hear that, and you're just like, my spirit sank, because I'm just like, oh, so I'm not beautiful enough. I just have the body, but the rest, and for that, it's like you already put yourself in a space where you don't qualify to be in a good relationship, and that is one thing that I carried with me for a very long time. And you want to, and it's possibly part of the reason, not possibly, but it was one of the reasons why I started putting on makeup, because I look at myself, I'm like, oh, my dark circles, oh, these markings, I need to hide them to be more beautiful. Oh, let's wear contact lenses, So I don't have to wear glasses and look like whatever. Only to later find out that a lot of my friends or whoever I engage with actually prefer me with glasses. Because it's like, oh my God, you look so cute now, But as you grow older, those feelings are slowly broken off. But that particular one still rings very loud in my head.
It's crazy how we make adult decisions about our lives based on what children said to us. Right?
Yeah, that is sad. That is sad.
We know why, because obviously psychologically it has an effect and etc. etc. But when you simplify it like that, it almost, you're like, ish, Katla. It's like,
what? But those, but that's crazy, because primary and high school is the most. It's a very intricate part of your life, and you absorb everything so easy, like a damn sponge, and it just sits with you. So it's, especially if you're not introduced to therapy from a young age, or to talk about things or whatever, you just sit there with your feelings. It becomes hard to unlearn in that moment that actually, what is that? It means nothing to me.
Look, I'm not a parent. I have no intention of becoming a parent, right? If I am,
No, I want them to become parents.
Pull-up game is still strong.
Yeah. God bless them with a child.
Whoa,
you hear me?
I will parent through others, but the point I was going to make was I can't help but feel that was one of the qualities of parenting, because I suppose parenting is a whole thing, right? It's not just one thing, that sometimes is lost. It is in those micro corrections of the influences that other people have on us in our formative years. And that's why it's so important, like when children grow up in households where there's only one person, or all these dynamics that affect, like we know how it came about, Industrial Revolution, and then there's like a whole reason we're at the place we're at. But that absence of that corrective guidance is what leads us to end up being people who are adults but are broken, and they're still living out their broken childlike experience. Because sometimes all it took was a parent pulling you to the side and saying, don't worry about what he or she said. It's wrong what they said, but don't be angry at them too. So they're not dicks, they're not, they're kids, they just don't know any better. Right. And because that didn't happen, we then formed identities around these things that happened. And now we're trying to correct them as adults, and it's much harder.
It's harder, yeah.
There's cake upon cake upon cake. Like makeup, and you know that world very well. As a makeup, layer.
But anyway. So you can have the same look for 2 days. I didn't know this until recently, but anyway.
Surely that can't be healthy for the skin.
It's definitely not. Yeah. But okay, everyone has their way. You see, in that as well, it's I always try to emphasize that our parents are not entirely the problem, and I don't want them to see themselves as the problem. My parents watch my podcast, and I did tell them, you're going to learn a lot about me. I'm also learning a lot about myself. I'm discovering certain things, and in certain issues I would mention from childhood, don't take it to heart. I am like your victim, or I'm trying to hurt your feelings or whatnot. You taught me what you could teach me based on what you knew.
Thank you.
And what you have been given, the tools you were given, Now you can sit back and say, I wish I had a better emotional relationship with my parents. Okay, you didn't, but you had a whole lot more.
Yep.
You could run to them for whatever you wanted. You still can today. So I try my level best for as much as I'm trying to heal my traumas, whether it came from them, from high school or whatnot, in the same space, to not discredit or discount the role they played.
And that's adulting.
So it becomes, sometimes it becomes hard because the brain is just like, really, did I make you feel like that? I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm not fighting you, And I realize I'm not the only one. My friend Didi was there. She's like, yeah, I'm going through this phase with my mom right now. And it's just a case of talking through it, We say communication, but communication is so broad. There's different styles of communication. It's so broad. You may be seeking an emotional, fulfilling type of communication, whereas you only get this style. You can't discount it. Oksala, you just build on it. From there on it.
I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is it goes back to this idea of being an adult, that there's a time when your parents are responsible for you, and there's a time when you become responsible for yourself. And for me, that's when you become an adult. And when you are then able to say, this is what my parents did. You can judge it, not judge it yourself. That's up to you.
Yeah.
But then say, this is what I'm willing to do for myself. And I think one of the things that maybe on our parents' side that they need to become emotionally ready for is our forgiveness. They're afraid of hearing us say, and it breaks them, it makes them cry, because at the time they were trying the best they could with what they knew, like you're saying. But there has to be a forgiveness, because if we don't forgive, we're not collectively agreeing that I'm not flop. Forgiveness and blame are not the same thing. I'm not blaming you for it, because what you were living out was also, if you really think about it, especially as Black South Africans, a collective trauma that came with their generation. It was a tough time then, But I'm forgiving you for what it did to me, but we acknowledge what it wasn't sharp, so that we don't pass it on as a generational normality.
To our kids, exactly.
It can't be a normality enough, a lie, but there must be that acceptance, and it's not to say kukwate. I accept the name from cool. You good? Great. And we start from there. And I have to do that myself right now because I've reconciled with my father, my adopted father, but my father nonetheless, because he's the guy who raised me.
And I'm so happy to hear that because I know you guys' relationship wasn't.
Oh no, it was not
non-existent.
Essentially.
I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah. And one of the things that's existing in our relationship right now is we're not going back there. So we both have kind of, in our silos, decided, okay, and then we'll at some point in his, whilst he's living through this experience, I have to be able to tell him that I forgive him. I hope at the time he has the emotional capacity to handle hearing the forgiveness. So it doesn't, because sometimes in fear, like anger sometimes is just fear showing up in an unhealthy way. So parents might get angry or like whatever because they're just so feeling incredibly vulnerable. They don't know how to do it. Because, are you saying I was wrong? No, it's actually, they do know that there were things they did that were wrong. That being said, I must also be willing to hear when he calls me out on whatever it is that might have led to the deterioration of our relationship and how he felt I was being at that time. So it's something I have to do. I haven't done it yet at the time of recording. If COVID has taught us anything, is that there's no guarantees.
Yeah, in terms of time, you must do now.
Yeah, no.
You must do now. We'll get it done. That is so amazing. I'm actually proud of you for that. That's when it happens. When it happens. No, for the simple fact that you guys are talking. Yeah. Because you guys had a non-existent relationship. Yeah.
I had wanted nothing.
That is growth. That is personal growth, and that's amazing for men as well. Actually, yesterday when I was at, I met up with my uncle. He had a meeting, and then we were having chats, and this guy's like, what was he saying about men? Because I was talking about my podcast, what I talk about, and everything else. And he's like, oh, that's actually interesting, especially men need to. I'm like, well, I have men that come on my show and they talk about this openly. Because I think in the space he's in, men still don't openly speak about their feelings, what they're going through, what they're dealing with. And we're also talking about happy life, happy wife. That thing needs to go. Because there's some chat that I was on IG where
that shit is unhealthy.
It's unhealthy.
It's unhealthy.
Where these guys,
call it what it is. Unhealthy.
It's very unhealthy. So this guy was just saying, Anthony O'Neill on his podcast, he was saying, okay, guys, speak to the single ladies for your next relationship. What should they prepare or come in expecting or not expecting? Yeah. A few guys were like, this happy wife, happy life nonsense. Please, it's not healthy. And I'm like, I personally hate it, and I'm one of those people who can actually understand both the men and the women, and I can and before I fight you for anything, I'll just sit and try and understand, okay, where were you coming from when you felt that way, when you did that, etc., etc. And in that, for me, it just feels like you're discrediting yourself because you want to make her happy. Yeah. Who's making you happy? Who's fulfilling you? So hardly sharp or sharp, even though you don't like it. You understand? So we're talking about that, and he was just saying, no, a lot of guys don't speak about this. I'm like, I have friends who talk about it. I have a second guest coming who's a male or a man. I don't like the male and female. Male. My friend calls her fiance male. She's been calling him male forever. That's cute. Male Takwa. Literally, they've been together since high school. Yeah. This is 2008 when she finished. They've probably been together since 2006, somewhere there. 2020, they're getting married in December. Oh, wow. I was just like, oh. And he's like, oh, my male. Hey, male. And I was like, okay. So he was just simply saying, okay, a lot of guys are still not vulnerable enough to open up and talk. And I'm like, also, the platforms, public platforms that are available, it's still more focused on women, or it's created more for women. But there aren't really a lot of men actively creating those platforms to have a safe space for men to come sit and talk to each other. And that is very necessary. Incredibly so. I think that's the power of, I guess, media and public platforms, and that it normalizes a way of being. You see it with pop culture and music. A song starts in some torpi somewhere, it catches on, becomes a national thing, becomes a continental thing, becomes an international thing. And I think similarly with things like being able to speak and talk,
Somebody needs to be okay with it not being popular at first, hold space for it, until it becomes normal and popular, you know. I mean, even when you think about this podcasting format and this way of being, for the longest time, conversations like this were curated by networks. They were curated by people,
not individuals.
So would never put up her own content and her own conversations. And I think because the world is at that place now, we just need to be deliberate about it. Just say, okay, cool,
let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's hold space for men to talk. And I think also we also need to break away from the stereotypes and actively do it. We can't be lazy as well. You know, one other thing in Christianity, or I get Christianity, but I've read it somewhere.
Spiritual in jail.
Yeah. And part of it is something that we as men have to embrace as well, that we perpetuate these things. This happy life, happy wife, happy life. That shit is unhealthy. It really is incredibly unhealthy. And the reason it's let me tell you, and I'm sorry to say this for like the third time that I'm getting married or whatever, but I say it for a reason, because the context is that part of what the things that have been getting said around me as I prepare for this part of my relationship is that those are statements that I've heard fly around or whatever. And the first thought I had was actually not as empowered as you'd like to think, which was, am I a bitch? Because I'm always talking about my feelings. I'm that guy. I talk about my feelings. And I want me to exist. I will deliberately go and do one-man karaoke because I'm fighting for me.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where I questioned whether have I not ascended to true masculinity because I'm willing to let go of self.
But what is that as well? What does it look like?
Then I might as well be dead.
Yeah. What does that look like?
You know what it looks like?
Because you're going to diminish a huge part of you if you actually go for that.
It looks like a depressed me who probably starts to gain more weight because I'm eating my feelings, is incredibly unhappy, is not, also weirdly, is not the person she met because I'm not alive, I'm not engaged, because I'm suppressing all parts of me, because I'm just letting you, and I've actually been there, and that's what we're talking about, where I was, my lived experience was a reaction to her existence. So I was living around her. And you're not connected to a person when you're doing that. You're not. And whether they will say it or not, but they know that you're not connected to them because nothing is real.
And they can't exactly save you in that moment. You need to really show up for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there is things that women can do to hold space for men to be. It's tricky to do right now because the general discourse. Ooh, I use the word discourse.
Please do tell us. So I honestly want to strive for some sort of balance in the engagement of men and women, whether you are a whole life or you are in
monogamous.
A monogamous relationship. Whatever you choose to do, there needs to be some sort of balance in reciprocation and energies, conversations, etc. Let's just hold space for each other.
I think that's the best we can.
It's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think as much, one of the things I struggle with as what a man who considers himself to be an ally, right, to the feminist cause, is that again, I don't want my masculinity to be a reaction to feminism. And the isms also complicate things, because they box us in certain categories. True. I want the woman in my life and the whole world to have the same rights I have and to live a fulfilled life and be happy and healthy, right? And I want the same for the men in my life, myself included. We're in a process of adjusting that because historically the patriarchy had created an environment where that was not possible.
Yeah.
And that process does not necessarily have to result in the opposite being true, because we are codependent, whether we agree to it or not, and in a healthy version of codependence, if we end up in the negative, if we call it that, we're not going to be the best men to show up in our partnership.
Yeah.
Right? We also understand that we're speaking in a world where we're a non-binary world, and there's a lot more shades to this gender conversation. But more than anything, it's just to say that we have to both be okay. There's nothing wrong with both of us being okay.
Sure.
So let's not toxify masculinity. Let's not make men assholes. There are some really assholish men. Then there's also some really broken men.
Yeah.
And then there's some probably broken beyond repairs and must be locked up somewhere men as well. The same applies on the other side of the scale, for men and women, or for women rather. It's a little man.
It's a journey and a half. There's something I wanted to say, so I'm trying to remember it because there's so many things that go on in my head. But anyway, it's fine. But this it's a tough one. But for me, it's like I said, it's very important for us to just accommodate one another. Someone said, I don't know if they were looking at the stats, suicide in men, and then they simply said, this is why we are forced to have this toxic masculine energy. And in that moment I was like, no one is forcing you. Like you said, you as an individual, just take that, like, just stand up on your own and just make that decision to say, I am not going to show up as this person. No one is forcing you in that. And even if women may continue to say men are trash, it's because there's certain energies that are still presenting that. If you're not that, instead of you sitting and saying, why must I change because you're already painting me like this? Step aside and just, correct yourself so you can show up and be a better person for your partner or whoever else around you, the women around you.
I've come to realize that social media can also be an opportunity for cries of help. And we miss them. We always miss the cries of help because they appear as if they're just commentary or statements.
Yeah.
So for me, with posts like that, I'm always asking myself, what led a person to put that post up? And I'm only reflecting autobiographically in my own.
No.
There have been times when I've posted things because I was hoping in somebody seeing it, they would understand my plight and my cause. So I might be posting about, this is what leads us to toxic masculinity. But what I'm actually saying is, guys, I'm in a place where I'm feeling this way and I'm worried that I might end up in a toxic masculinity.
Space,
you know what I mean? And sometimes I'm not burdening you with that responsibility, but I think we need to be able to see the subtext sometimes with posts. I remember when I started posting about toxic masculinity in particular, or toxic shame, actually.
Yes. That was a great campaign, actually.
Thank you.
It needs to come back.
We'll bring it back. It'll be a national. It shouldn't be a thing that dies.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. So because we keep rebuilding high school kids, primary kids, so it never ends.
The cause is too big.
Yeah.
And when I initially started researching on it was because obviously I was in a particular place, and so what I would share my findings of it on the grams or on my WhatsApp timeline
status,
it was at some level I actually realize now was a cry for help.
You were just not aware at that moment.
Yeah, it was like I was shouting at the top, but my voice was not coming out. Sure. I was like, this is me. This is what I'm going through. But obviously, when you post it, it sounds cool because you phrase it nicely and it does the things. But yeah, I wonder how many other people have a similar experience where they use it as an expression, hoping like an SOS. Smoke signal, come save me.
Isn't it also crazy how it's so easy to just grab your phone, type what you feel to the world or whoever, but you can't even say that to your friends.
Yeah.
It's so many because it's like with your friends or family members, whoever, people close to you, you're already somewhat anticipating someone saying, "Hey man, relax," or don't be, like it's easier to connect with strangers because they won't judge you as much as the people in your circles. Because they're like, "Oh, you're back there again? Oh, I thought you learned your lesson. Oh, you didn't? Okay, cool." Not realizing, it's not as easy as black and white.
Yeah. Maybe it's because with strangers, it doesn't mean as much, whether they do judge or they don't. With family,
you don't need to hold on to anything.
You don't run. You're not losing anything.
Yeah.
How about it? But there's a risk of losing something.
Hectic. Yo, I couldn't fail.
Okay,
we're about to wrap it up. Few questions.
Okay, few.
So it's a versus, rather the versus.
Okay.
Vacation versus staycation.
Vacation right now. Right now, vacation.
Where would it be?
I want to go to New York right now.
Yes.
A part of me is like, man, who busy?
Hey.
But I'll tell you why. I'll tell you. Did you ask me? But I'll tell you.
Okay. You'll tell me. It's fine. You'll tell me.
It's because, and I think it's my current status on WhatsApp now. Right now, I feel my world is closing in on me. I've spent too much time in a particular context. It's also part of why I'm considering moving out of Johannesburg. And I feel like I'm starting to live to the context as opposed to broaden my... So I need to firstly go back to international travel. I haven't done it in like 10 years. And to be able to, for the world to be my oyster, as opposed to, it's similar to why you moved to LA, right? You know? And a part of it is
Cats out the bag.
So, did I just... My bad.
I mentioned it in the previous episode. Well, not this one. I mentioned when I was with Didi, if you were to live anywhere in the world, where would it be? And I said LA. It wasn't clear. I am planning to move, but I guess it's out
clear now.
But here's one. Sorry to cut you.
No,
one thing I appreciate that you have done for me is you have held me accountable for that particular goal. Because I've been so scared to verbalize it that if it does not come to pass next year at a particular time that I've set, I will feel like I have failed. And it will feel like, you know, when you sometimes feel like maybe someone is conspiring against you, so you don't want to jinx it or put it. What did you matter? And in that, you're not telling the universe what you want. So thank you for that. You literally, repeatedly for the past 3 weeks, you've done that. She's moving to LA. She's going. Spoon and Cake have been doing the same thing. I was like, okay,
we're all selfishly booking a place on your couch. You know? That's how we're doing. We're like, okay.
So I'm like, okay, it's a reality. Accept it. Continue to work on it, whichever way that how it looks like or when it will be next year. That is your time. Just focus on it. I appreciate you. Thank you. Continue.
It's a pleasure. Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Okay. You were saying New York. You wanted. I was saying because you want
I just want to open my world up.
Yes,
you know, there are many beaches in the world, so I can go to any beach. Which I don't think will be as unique an experience as going and entrenching myself in a world that inspires me and seeing the possibilities. That's what I meant in my life, like possibilities.
And if they just live in your head, you start thinking, am I really worthy of that? And it's like you want to have these possibilities only exist in your head, but you're watching everybody else live it. How does it still not make sense to you?
Man, I'll tell you right now. This morning, I put the TV on, and I was watching Trevor's show, right? At this point, we're possibly desensitized to the fact that Trevor is a South African who used to walk the same streets, catch the same taxis with us. Right? And he's living out his life's dream right now. But what I loved was, because we know he holds space for Africans, he was having a conversation with David O or Davido, depending on what you call him. And it was, again, a universal reminder to me to say, yo, the world is what we want it to be. Exactly. And they were talking about the hustle spirit of Nigerians at some level, but it was like, the confidence that Nigerians have, and it's a blueprint. There's a blueprint. They've made Afrobeat the biggest sound in the world right now. Amapiano is doing the exact same thing. How many more evidence? How much more evidence do you need?
We need? And here's a guy from South Africa, a guy from Nigeria, Bakopanako, New York City, and you still feel like, I'm not worthy. What?
Check it out. Like, honestly.
What?
If you discount yourself.
And if that's still too far from you, look at your friends. Half of our friends are not living in SA. And you still feel like, Anyway.
But it's nicer to talk about it.
Exactly. Work, guys. Work. You see, what I love is my friends hold me accountable. And you do that a lot. They really hold me accountable to constantly follow through. And I guess that's also the other thing that we need in life. You need someone who's going to keep pushing you. But at the same time, if they don't, and if there isn't anyone, remember to push yourself. Because you're doing it for yourself, ultimately. Okay. Night or morning?
What's the number of it?
Thanks, Google.
Morning. New life. Simply new life. Morning. To do it again.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Rich and famous or rich and unknown?
Rich and unknown. I've been famous and broke, or semi-famous and broke, so I know fame is overrated.
See, this is another conversation again. Goddamn. Okay.
I'm going to put out another quotable just because it really is important. There came a time in my life that I realized I wanted to be more significant than be a celebrity. And celebrity, when you think about it, is that you are celebrated for having done something. And I think that idea, that concept has long disappeared. Because the things we can do to gain celebrity status are frivolous. So for me, I like, if I could do everything that I enjoy doing that happens to have a public facing part to it without anybody knowing it and still make loads of money, Great.
Please.
Otherwise, I'll just make the money without necessarily being in the public
Call
environment.
me.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Art museum or history museum?
History.
I thought so. I thought so. I knew it. Okay. Be embarrassed or be afraid?
They're the same for me. Be embarrassed or be afraid?
Be embarrassed or be afraid? Do you think they're the same?
Very few things scare me now. So, but embarrassment is a fear, is it not? You're afraid.
So in you being embarrassed, I guess it can develop into fear.
Yeah.
Your embarrassment can develop into fear depending on what it is.
You know what? I want to say embarrassed, but I've not yet gotten over people's opinions as much as I would like to. So embarrassed probably is bigger. It's a bigger thing.
Guys, the work that we still have to do as individuals. Phew. Reality shows or documentaries?
Documentaries.
I knew it. Oh my God, I knew it. Okay. I think I know this one as well. Okay. Oh, I think I know the last two. Anyway.
Let's see.
Red wine or white wine?
That's tricky. In winter, red wine. In summer, when the sun is out, I'll have some white wine.
Okay. I used to think like that as well, but summer, the calories. I was just like, no, babes, you need to cut down. Just let it go. Yeah. So I just gauged the particular day and time, and then. Yeah, okay. I see. I'd probably then gravitate more to red, but red is my thing. Yeah. Okay. Hang out with little kids or old folks? I feel like I know this one.
Oh, little kids. I love little kids. As much as I don't want my own kids, I like little kids. Little kids are pure, man. Little kids are like they're... We're talking about older than us.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so wherever we
are. Maybe a granny or something like that. Yeah.
You know what I love about grannies? Is wisdom. Right? Yes. In some of them. Because also you forget, idiots get old too.
Don't mean if you're old, you're an idiot still.
You hit 60 and they're like, here's your sash of wisdom. Ain't no such shit. No.
Oh my God. Yes.
But I've been enjoying my nephew-in-law, I guess, if that's even a thing. But let's call him my nephew. He is just about 2. And I see him every morning when we're at the gym. Cute. And his personality just keeps growing. I love that innocence, that purity, that naiveness, that Hana agenda. Hana agenda.
How does that not make you want to have your own? I'm sorry, I'm digressing here, but
in all fairness, I've lived through my version of parenthood. In not my previous relationship, but my more serious previous relationship. I don't know how you say it.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
We met when he was, I think, a year old, and we were together for just about 7 years.
Ooh.
And so I've raised a child through that experience. So I've maybe a part of it is that I've had that experience. But also I just don't have the yearning. I don't know. People say they've got one. Like I don't.
You don't have that.
I can give that love to any child who's deserving of it.
But if God blesses you, you're accepting that baby.
If my financial position allows me to, I'll be very
God blesses you, you're accepting that baby. I'm not asking about your finances.
God better holler through with this money.
if God blesses y'all, and this is the problem. Do you know what I say to my friends and let's not give titles, but anyway,
my situationships, I don't
know. If we constantly focus on kids are expensive, for me, I feel, and please, I'm saying this because I'm not a parent, and I think this is what makes sense to me. We are saying they're expensive because we are also setting a certain standard for ourselves. Not by increasing the expenses, not necessarily the baby, right? We have people, and it's not ideal, but you have. My cousin has 5 kids.
It's a lot.
She has 5 kids. She braids hair. She cleans from time to time. She's taking care of all 5. And I'm not saying it's okay to be dependent on that or whatever, but she's making it happen. Now we're just like, kids are expensive, but then you go buy an expensive stroller. kids are expensive, but then gourmet food fellow. Yeah, so I think we are the one, and I'm not, and I swear to God, I'm not bashing anyone or shading anyone. I'm just speaking reality. This baby is not coming into the world saying, I'm gonna mess up your life financially. We do that because
the thing is, you're opening up a relationship, a whole conversation, which is a podcast episode
on its own,
about our relationship with money. And maybe let me explain. Yes. I'm not excusing it because I feel I want to. My relationship with money used to be money gives me things. And so I want more of it so I can have more things.
Okay.
My current relationship, I will it persist till the end, is that money buys me freedom, and that freedom is bought through options, right? Because it's a finite thing. Well, actually, money is an infinite thing, but you can only accumulate a certain amount of it at a certain time. I want to have options of happiness. Let me explain it this way. This guy complicated. I remember the lack of money in the house being the reason. There was pain. There was tension. There was all those things. So I had always said to myself, I will have enough of it that it is never the reason we're not laughing.
Oh, okay.
If medicine is what is required, we'll get medicine. If that medicine is laughter, it'll be laughter because there's nothing to not make us laugh. If that medicine is Mediclinic or whatever, we'll go there too. So it's the options, it's that freedom, and I want to have so much abundance that it is proportionate to the freedom I have, and then maybe I think that decision won't be as hard, or won't even be a thing. I mean, my pull-out game is still gonna be strong.
Lord help us.
But I mean, should it not go that way, then I won't be like, yo, too much. As much as I said it, I'm not at that place in my life where I have enough for it not to be a consideration. Because I don't want to look at my child and feel burdened.
So for the most part, we can say safely that a lot of people who want kids, have kids, or plan to have kids, it's all kind of maybe 40-60% based around their financial muscle.
I guess so, if they actively choose it to be, if they're present and decide. Because think about it, it's got such a trickle down effect because, because of the stress of the lack of the resources to buy milk, there's a conversation that gets had between parent and parent. And because they're both stressed, it's a toxic conversation. Not because they're two bad people, but because there's now this resource that governs their ability to live. And then they go on and have that conversation. Child grows up watching those micro moments of tension happen.
And fighting.
And they get some sort of layer of whatever kak built into them that they now, in their adult life, have to sit on a couch and unpack with each other.
Because they could feel all that happening in their space.
Right. And it all came down to the fact that they, at the time at which they came into the world, the options, because unfortunately we live in a world, were not there as many as they should have been.
Shoot, this is definitely a conversation for another day.
Well, we're getting into that one.
Thank you, my friend, for availing yourself. Thank you for contributing to my journey. Thank you for being an amazing, open-hearted, kind friend and telling me shit when I need to hear it, even though I don't want to, but I need to. I appreciate you for that, and may you keep growing and creating. I see your media in New York, actually.
Yeah.
I see it in LA.
In LA, I was going to say, I mean, I know a friend who's going to be setting up shop in LA, so.
Get it!
So,
honey! I see this brand growing internationally.
Thank you.
And whether it's today, it's tomorrow, next year, but Oksala, you're doing it.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I receive.
Put it out to the universe. Speak it out.
And thank you to you. Thank you for firstly having me, because it's nice to be here. It's cool.
Hey. Yeah, lately people are like, well, so when are you featuring me? When are you come? I'm like, oh, guys, I didn't really think. Now I'm just like stuck here with 5 people asking me, Okay, I'll make time, but yeah.
Hey.
And we'll see what we talk about.
Don't fight the universe.
You know?
But yeah, no, thank you for having me. But also thank you for having the courage to have this kind of conversation because and ask these kind of questions because it gives people like myself opportunities to have conversations with themselves that they don't always have. You know, if you're always on that side of this conversation, you don't always get this opportunity to speak about yours and to hear it for yourself as well. Like the things that we spoke about today that I was like, yo, how wicked you. But I appreciate that. And I appreciate you as a friend. I wish you all the best with this podcast. I know it's going to do great. I wish you all the best with everything in New York. You know what you must do in LA? When you're in LA, a year into being in LA, you must take back this clip and play it back. All right? Because here's what I'm going to tell you. When you're established in LA and you are doing work on all the projects that you've wanted to work on, and for the first time in what I know, you feel that you are in you're with your tribe.
I belong.
When you're with your tribe and you're glowing, you know, I look forward to seeing you there. I'm gonna get there. I'm not even gonna tell you quickly, and I'm gonna stalk you for a couple of days just to watch you in it.
Oh,
just to watch you in it, so I can say my friend is good.
He's did it.
Huluki.
Yeah.
You know that's Anyway, I talk a lot, so I'm gonna shut up. But thank you.
We're probably gonna talk still after this,
and drink coffee. Nudge.
Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this amazing episode and that you gained something from it. That you learn and you're able to pass on what we spoke about to the next person. And like I always say, just be kinder to yourselves. Give yourself grace. You said we have grace. Don't be what?
Oh, don't be a disgrace.
Don't be a disgrace. Yeah. So give yourself grace and work hard. Love yourself. Love the people around you. Yes. Love you guys. Mwah. Bye.